if we look at his overall attitude and policies towards the Jewish people, how would you frame that? We have, Henry Ford, who's brought all the progress, but whose anti-Semitism is poisonous. It's widespread and it's poisonous. You have immigration laws that might not favor certain ethnic groups as well. And on the other hand, you have his strong statements on Palestine, a speech that he gave the Jewish Community Center. How do you frame it? How do you balance these different?
I think you just judge people in their era, right? You don't judge them by your own era, because the way they all talked in that period was different to the way we speak. I'm not so concerned about Henry Ford. As I say, there was the bonus he didn't think of probably, but that he gave Saturday, took the lead on that. The immigration law, the Johnson-Reed Act, did make it much tougher for East Europeans to come to the United States. So if you hadn't come over before the law, 1924 law, well, it was harder in the 20s and the 30s. And we know what the 30s were like, and we have relations who were stuck in Europe. Coolidge, that law was very popular. Had Coolidge vetoed it, he would have been overridden. If you go back and look, it's hard to find congressmen who did not support it. The sense was the United States is full. That there's nothing wrong with the United States is full as a concept. In Coolidge's case, I don't think his signing of that law was anti-Semitic or even anti-East European. He just signed it because he did believe maybe the United States need a period to absorb the immigration it had received. Immigration, foreign born as a share of overall population in that period, and now you're taxing my memory, but anyway, it was high as it is today. But well, what's wrong with a pause? But he didn't go out of his way to make nasty statements about groups. In fact, he went to every group he could, even though he didn't like groups, to make it clear that he wasn't opposed to Italian Americans, Jewish Americans, Southern Greek Americans, even though the immigration law had the effect of restraining immigration from where they came from. It was based on that law, and the quotas in it were based on more of North Europe, right? And so that's what he did. It's important to say that nobody who followed him changed that law enough, including Franklin Roosevelt. Presidents and Congress can change laws. So many presidents, several presidents later, many terms later, came World War II. If you see it, so I wouldn't hang it on Coolidge particularly. I would hang it on the mood in the United States in the 1920s. But he did believe in Americanism, which was more assimilation. Mm-hmm. I don't think he would have been, as I say, to use something we know about, for federally funded or state funded bilingual ed. He would probably have been for school vouchers.
Right. Okay.
Because he grew up with school vouchers, and they have a proto-voucher system in Vermont. And if you want to go to, it was, came in as he was a young adult, came into. So towns will pay money to send kids to private school somewhere else on behalf of the family, if the family opts to go to a school farther away, including a school of a different religious denomination. So, he was more religion for the private sphere. What you're referring to in speeches, the one I actually like is his speech to Jewish philanthropists, which was a conference call. They had those, I guess, just after the death of his son. So in 1924. And what he says to speech to Jewish philanthropists is hilarious. He says, I don't feel like giving a speech. His son had just died. But he didn't say my son had just died, but that was the background. But when I saw you were interested in budgets, I came on the line because I like budgets. I dream about budgets, and I think you do too, based on your plea to me to meet with you over the telephone line. And I like Jews, or I like your people. And he said, why was that? Or I appreciate you. Because you take care of your own. That is Jewish hospitals, Jewish charities, which were a very, very important part of Jewish life before the federal government had Medicare and Social Security, right? The Jewish community took care of its own. And he said in that, that's very also New York. That's called, you're familiar with the Stuyvesant Pledge?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so anyway, all the way along, Jews were suffered or allowed or suffered to or allowed or welcomed by New York, depending on the regime, on the condition they took care of their own community. That is, don't add to the social responsibilities of New York City. And that was the pledge made to Peter Stuyvesant, after whom the math-oriented high school is named. Stuyvesant Pledge, Coolidge didn't refer to it, but he said, I appreciate that you take care of your own, because the burden of poverty is on all voters, right? Unless communities step up. So he respected communities for that. And he said, I want you to know, I feel you are making good citizens, which I think is a wonderful thing to say to members of any group. You can imagine the Jewish community. I want you to know, I feel you are making good citizens and helping the United States. So he went out of his way, and there's another speech which you just referred to, the laying of the stone at the Jewish Center in DC. And I think in that one, if not there elsewhere, he talks about the Torah, he talks about the Bible as the basis of all our law. And he does that in order to show he appreciates serious Judaism.